Good morning. I'm Sudhir Anand from VNN and Voice Media Group. We have a pleasure surprise today. The Brampton Mayor, Mr. Patrick Brown, is here with us today, and we'll be discussing and talking about some of the details with him, some of the questions with him. He's the only mayor who has, as a person, as a leader, who has visited India 19 times. Which is remarkable on any part of any of the person or any of the leader of this part of the world who has this privilege. So we'll be talking with him on certain other issues as well. So let's welcome Mayor of Brampton, Mr. Patrick Brown.
Well, Sudhir, great to be back here after a long time. Great to be with our friends at the Weekly Voice.
Thank you. So you have been there now at the helm of the affairs in Brampton. So after becoming a mayor, which pressing issues were taken head on and resolved?
Well, I think the two biggest issues we focused on right away at City Hall were, one, the issue of taxation. Brampton had 19 years of property tax increases, 19 years in a row of property tax increases. This year we passed the first property tax freeze. So I think people were surprised. After 19 years of increase, it was pleasant relief for the community to see a tax freeze. When I took over, the projection under the previous mayor was going to be a 5% increase. So we managed to reverse that. We did a value for money study, making sure that every cent that's being spent at City Hall is being spent wisely. And so we're very proud to be the only big city in Canada. The only big city in Canada with a tax freeze this year. The other big issue was public safety. Last year was a record for homicides, and I've been working closely with the Peel Police to try to deal with some of the challenges. We've added 55 new officers to the Peel Police. 55, that's a big number.
Big numbers.
And so even better, I looked at the graduating class. It is the most diverse graduating class you'd ever see. When I looked at that graduating class, it looked like Peel Region. About time. We've had some significant projects. We had Project Baron with the Peel Police, where we went after the guns being used in crimes. In Project Baron, they managed to seize over $1 million worth of guns and drugs. And that was a tactical team with the Peel Police. We also had recently another tactical team working on the car thefts. There was a ring that was sending cars to Turkey and China. We managed to arrest them after a long investigation, and that's going to be in the courts now. But we've also been pushing for our fair share. You wouldn't believe this, Sudhir, but when I got elected, I found out that Toronto and Ottawa would get provincial gun and gang funding, but nothing for Peel. So it was like the province thought the gangs only operated in Toronto and Ottawa. So those police forces would get funding for tactical squads to deal with gang activity, but nothing in Peel. So we pushed and pushed and pushed the provincial government for funding. Just a few weeks ago, they announced that Peel will now be eligible for gun and gang funding. So that's a welcome relief. Because when I look at a lot of the crime, when you hear about murders in Peel, a lot of it is gang-related activity that has spilled over from Toronto. We have Toronto gang activity, unfortunately. Criminals, they don't respect the postal code. And so the notion you could say that the province will only fund gang activity, anti-gang activity with the police in Toronto, the difference between Etobicoke and Brampton is almost insignificant, and criminals won't respect that. And so I'm relieved that we now have that provincial mechanism in place to work with the Peel Police to tackle gang crime. So I think on those two fronts, on dealing with public safety and trying to give relief to taxpayers, we've had a lot of success in our first year.
Very nice. Yes, I do agree that all the criminals, they don't see the postal code. Mm-hmm. They do work as per their convenience and what you call the opportunities. Mm-hmm. Second question I'll ask, Mayor. The provincial government cut funds for the university in Brampton. What is the alternative?
So let me say at the outset that I believe it was very short-sighted of the provincial government, very short-sighted of Doug Ford to cancel the university projects in Markham, in Milton, in Brampton, and the French University. I think the government now, a year later, regrets that. They've just announced that they are going to fund the French University. I think they made some rash decisions when they first got elected.
Okay.
That, frankly, was a letdown to young people in our province, particularly in Brampton. Brampton, you know, we're the only big city in Canada that doesn't have our own university, so it was foolish to cancel. Having said that, we have an amazing city council, and we talked about it when it happened, and we said, if the province isn't going to do right by Brampton, we're going to find a way. We're going to find a way. We're not going to be bullied. We're not going to be disappointed. We're not going to be disillusioned. Where there's a will, there's a way. And we went out to other partners. I spoke to Prime Minister Trudeau and said, listen, the province has really let us down. We've got this great cybersecurity project with Ryerson. We'd love for you to be part of it. And our local MPs, Minister Baines, they helped advocate. And the federal government has now contributed to the Ryerson Cybersecurity Centre in Brampton. It involves Rogers and RBC. We're going to be a centre for cybersecurity in Canada. We'll be training people to work corporately in the cybersecurity field. We have 700 associated jobs with this project. Now, the province controls sort of the academic journey in terms of getting a degree, but we're going to be training people in cybersecurity, which is really exciting, and I appreciate the federal government being a partner to the city of Brampton. We also went out to Algoma, and Algoma University is opening a school of business right in our downtown. They're going to have classes right this fall, right now. And so Algoma is planning a major growth plan in Brampton, and Sheridan continues to grow. But what I would say is, as much as we've seen success without the provincial government being involved, we do hope that they'll come to the table. We do hope that they'll understand that young people in Brampton deserve to have opportunities, and the provincial government should treat young people in Brampton fairly.
Definitely. All the children who are seeking the education province-wise, doesn't matter which city they live in, they should have the equal rights in terms of the education, which is the first right for the children. Next, we move on. You talk about the cricket stadium in Brampton. When and where it is coming?
So one thing that I've been a big champion of is cricket. You know, the reality is, for too long, recreation was being built like it was the 1950s. In the 1950s, you'd build hockey rinks and baseball diamonds.
Yes.
And nothing against baseball or hockey. You know, I'm a big hockey guy.
Yeah.
But we are a mosaic in Brampton. And we have young people in our community who are passionate about cricket. And so I said, I really want to create opportunities for cricket in the city of Brampton. So we're building 4 new fields this year. We're adding lights to the Terremoto field so you can actually play late into the evening. And then we went after the GT20. The GT20 wasn't going to go to Brampton, but we petitioned them to say, if you have it in Brampton, it's going to be a smashing success. And boy, was it not a smashing success. It was incredible. The TV viewership for the final was 150 million. The biggest names in cricket. And I still remember, you know, sitting there with Yuvraj Singh, and he said to me, he said, being in Brampton feels like I'm at home.
Yes.
And how nice is that to hear one of the world cricketers say that? It speaks to the warmth you have in the Brampton mosaic, but to see cricket permanently flourish in Brampton, we really need a stadium. And the great thing is the GT20 wants to contribute to it. They want to be here for a long time. So right now we're building a stadium at Gore Meadows. The tender specifics are already been issued, so I can't comment yet on the scope of it, but you'll be hearing about that very soon. And we have an ambitious goal to do this within a year.
Yeah. So if, say, cities contributing, cities working towards this, and maybe the federal government or provincial government?
Well, actually better yet, the way we're doing this, the city doesn't have to contribute.
Okay.
Do you know how?
How?
So development, when development happens in the city, you know, when developers come to the city, they have to pay development charges
Yes.
to pay for things like recreation. And so What we're saying is that if you want to build homes in our community, you have to contribute to the infrastructure of the city. And so we have development funds set aside from developers to be able to build recreation.
That's nice.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we have learned a few years ago when there was a international cricket which happened in Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
So International Cricket Council, they have supported them and tried to build those stadiums there.
Yeah, and so we do expect, we have developers pitching in, but we also expect the GT20 is going to contribute, and I don't want to get ahead of their contributions, but they have made a promise of a level of commitment that's pretty impressive, but we'll let them speak to that on their own. I don't want to take their news from them,
Okay.
but we expect the GT20 to be a great partner for the city of Brampton investing in cricket in our city.
So this is a good news for the cricket fans in Brampton and in Ontario and Canada for that
Well,
matter.
anyone watching, Brampton has become the capital of cricket in Canada. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Next question, but your thoughts on amalgamation of three cities, Caledon, Brampton and Mississauga.
So listen, I think the province has many other things to worry about other than regional governance review. We have to deal with hallway medicine, we have to deal with gridlock traffic on our roads, but there is a review of regional governance, and my preference is that the region appeal was created by Bill Davis. It served us well over the years, and I know Bonnie Crombie has asked for Mississauga to leave the region. I have to scratch my head to understand why we'd want to have two police forces, two waste management contracts. We save money by pooling those resources. And right now we have two reports, independent reports, that say it would cost more to break up the region. I put taxpayers first. If it's going to cost taxpayers more, I don't like where that's going. And I want to make sure we protect taxpayers. Right now it says that taxes would skyrocket in Mississauga. They could go up in Brampton. They could skyrocket in Caledon if we break up the region, and I'm not a fan of that. I want the burden on property owners to be as little as possible. Frankly, I feel that we already pay too much. In this part of the province.
That's true. Thank you, Mayor. Though Brampton is one of those cities where traffic is good, according to the latest survey, still auto insurance is the highest here. Mm-hmm. Have you talked about this with the provincial government?
We talk about this to the provincial government all the time. I've got a lot of history with this topic. When I was in provincial politics, as you recall, I put forward a platform called the People's Guarantee.
Yes.
In that platform included a provision on auto insurance. It said that geographical discrimination would be banned, that you couldn't charge more if you lived in Brampton or Scarborough. The insurance companies weren't happy with me when I put that in the platform. They were not happy with me. Yeah. But they said there's too much fraud in Scarborough or Brampton or Markham. And I said, that's your job to investigate it.
Yes.
We're not giving you a blanket check to charge people more in Brampton and Markham and Scarborough. And I stuck by my principles, and I put it in our platform. But then I obviously left provincial politics. The new PC leader, Doug Ford, was asked about this last summer. They asked him, are you going to honor Patrick Brown's commitment on auto insurance? He said he was going to look into it. So right now I think we're all waiting to see whether Doug Ford will honor the commitment that was made in the People's Guarantee to end geographical discrimination. I would note that there's two MPPs who have been working on this. Garatan Singh, the MPP from Brampton East, passed a motion to end geographical discrimination. And Parm Gill, who's a PC MPP from Milton, also did a motion saying we should do this. So I hope they really carry the torch on my plan. It would mean dramatically less insurance costs for people living in Brampton.
Yes. Insurance is one issue which affects most of the citizens in Brampton since they are paying 15 to 20% more if we compare.
Sometimes more.
Yeah, sometimes more. If we compare other citizens of other cities within the province. So this is
By the way, Sudhir, when I moved back, I started my professional career in Brampton as a lawyer, went up to Barrie. When I moved back to Brampton, my auto insurance doubled. Doubled, not 10% or 20%, doubled.
This is an irony which the citizen of the same province is being treated differently, I would say. So provincial government definitely has to step in to remove this discrimination among Brampton citizens or Markham citizens or Scarborough citizens.
And what would be helpful, Sudhir, is that if your viewers see one of the government MPPs, if you see the Premier at an event, ask him, when will you honor the commitment that was made in the People's Guarantee, the previous PC platform under Patrick Brown, to end geographical discrimination? I wish it happened a year ago. I wish it happened a year ago.
Definitely we'll be talking with most of the MPPs, those are here in this region. At the same time, we'll talk to our Premier, Mr. Doug Ford, on the same issue. Let's move on to another question with Mr. Brown. What about gridlock? Some roads are like parking lots in Brampton.
We have real problems with gridlock, and if you look at the 410, if you look at, frankly, before 10 a.m. and after 4 p.m., our roads are a mess when it comes to the high volume. 15 years ago when Brampton was half its size, I don't think other senior levels of government realized the type of growth we were going to have in Brampton, and they didn't envision the type of contributions they'd have to make. It's why I'm pushing so hard to the provincial and federal governments to make contributions. The last big transit contribution we had from the feds was 80 million with Zoom in 2008. Since that time, you look at the contributions to Kitchener-Waterloo, $1 billion, Ottawa, $1 billion, Scarborough, billions. Yet Brampton is bigger than all those areas. Vaughan, $1 billion, and Brampton is bigger than Vaughan, bigger than Scarborough, bigger than Kitchener-Waterloo. And so we have a plan for the extension of the LRT that we want a federal contribution. If we can have a way to get right into the downtown without using the roads, that will drive more people to use public transit. We also want to see the 413 extension finished. We're hoping that the province will fund that rapidly. So we're pushing to make sure that we have proper transportation corridors. And on the GO train, as you know, last year when the province canceled the express train, we went kicking and screaming about it.
That's right, I remember.
I invited all the media on the GO train with me to show you how packed it was.
Yeah.
And so we got the province to back down from those cuts. They've now added new trains. So, there's a lesson in the GO train story. They were going to cut our service. We stood up as a community, a council all together, saying we demand better. We were on the evening news, and then the province said, okay, we'll give them their service back and we'll give them some more. When you're quiet, when you let them bully you, when you let them step over you, they'll keep on doing it. But for the first time in a long time, Brampton is speaking with a united and loud voice, saying we want our fair share, and we've had some success.
And Brampton is one of the largest growing cities.
It is the fastest growing big city in Canada, and the second fastest growing city in Canada. Only Milton is growing faster.
But again, the numbers are totally different in terms of the population of Milton and Brampton. Let's move on to the taxes in Brampton. The taxes in Brampton are also extremely high. Has anything been done to bring them down? As we've been discussing those things?
Well, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, we're quite proud of the fact that for the first time in 19 years, Brampton had a tax freeze this year. First time in 19 years. 19 years straight of tax increases, and this council passed the first tax freeze. And we were the only big city in Canada, with a tax freeze this year.
And Brampton is a debt-free city also?
Yes, we are a debt-free city. We actually have reserves.
Is there any kind of program or any kind of planning under which you may reduce the property tax?
So municipalities don't reduce property taxes. Every city in Canada had tax increases because you have to build new roads or firefighters or purchase or or city employees, their collective agreements usually are in the 2% range. But we should be proud that we're the only big city in Canada, the only big city that brought in a tax freeze this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your achievement since becoming mayor, and what future do you see for Brampton and their citizens?
I think right now, Brampton is a great place to be. Brampton is a great investment. And if you look at our city right now, there's so many good things happening across the board, whether it's recreation, where we're expanding recreation right now, whether it's cricket or hockey or field hockey or soccer or baseball. Across the board, we're expanding recreation. You look at the fact that we were the only big city with a tax freeze, that we've brought in new officers, that we've got some exciting things happening with post-secondary education and a Center for Innovation in our downtown, the cybersecurity commitment. There are some amazing things happening in Brampton, and if I was someone on the outside looking in, I'd say Brampton is the place to be right now. Brampton is a great opportunity. If you look at where Mississauga was 15 years ago before they had their growth, Brampton is really at that point now where you're starting to see Brampton flourish.
So you see Brampton as a better city than any of those within the GTA in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think Brampton has the best ingredients for success.
So you see the Brampton has the potential to do so?
100%.
And you're thinking of bringing new industries in Brampton?
We're working on that every day, and we've actually seen some of our companies continue to grow. I was just at Caledon, Canada yesterday, where they have their headquarters in Brampton, high-tech jobs. They can't hire enough people because they've got some great skilled positions that are opening up. So yeah, we've got some positive synergies happening on the economic development front as well.
Last not the least, you would like
and I should note, also the week before I was at Ulstrom, where the light rail vehicles that are being used in Ottawa or Toronto, they're being built in Brampton. In Brampton. Hundreds of jobs being built in Brampton. So, those are just two examples, but there's some really exciting things happening.
Yeah, very nice. We again ask our mayor if he has a specific message which should go among the Indo-Canadians or South Asian community.
Well, I would say this to residents: be involved, be engaged. The worst thing for a city is apathy. If you have ideas, if you have suggestions, don't hesitate to share your aspirations for the city. I'm easy to reach on social media at Patrick Brown ONT, and would love to hear from you. Particularly for the South Asian community, I would note that we will be hosting our first ever City Garba on October 18th at the Powerade Centre, and maybe Sudhir, you want to come and join us?
Definitely.
Dance that night, show us your moves.
Yes.
It's going to be a great time to celebrate living in the Flower City.
Yes, and is there any dress code for that?
Any
dress code?
Dress code? No, just wear your best Garba attire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely will be joining Mayor Patrick Brown for the Garba in the Brampton City, and we wish him all the best for the future endeavors. At the same time, we know Mayor Patrick Brown will be putting his sweat and blood to put this city as on the top of the map in Canada. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you so much.